There are places in the galaxy that maps refuse to name, places whispered about only in taverns, in prisons, in the hushed voices of men who have seen too much. They call them the Bloodworlds. Worlds cursed, worlds abandoned, worlds alive. Not alive in the way of forests or oceans or winds that breathe across the mountains. No, alive in a way far more ancient, far more terrible. Alive like a wound that never heals. Alive like a mouth that never closes. Alive like a god that has been chained and yet still hungers. The first sign is always the rivers. Imagine it. You step onto a barren world. Its surface cracked like old bone. The sky above is heavy and low, its clouds swollen with a crimson haze. And at your feet a river runs. But it is not water. It is not mud. It is not the melted ice of a frozen mountain. It is blood, thick, dark, metallic. The stench fills your lungs and coats your tongue. The river twists and flows across the land, pooling in places like wounds too deep to close. Some say the rivers run from the ground itself, that the planet bleeds like a wounded beast, eternal and unending. Others whisper that the rivers do not begin anywhere at all, that they flow from nowhere and drain into nothing, that the rivers themselves are veins, pumping life into something vast, something hidden beneath the surface. And if you follow these rivers far enough, you will always find the same thing. The altars, colossal structures of black stone, jagged and sharp, rising like broken teeth from the soil. No one remembers who built them. No one admits to worshiping at them. And yet they remain, covered in runes older than human memory. Runes that pulse faintly when the blood rivers touch their base. Runes that whisper if you dare to stand too close. Witnesses claim that the altars drink the blood, that the rivers twist unnaturally, bending as if pulled by an unseen hand, feeding into channels carved in the stone. And when the altars drink, they sing, not a song for human ears, a vibration, a shiver in the air, a pulse that you feel in your bones, in your teeth, in the core of your skull. The kind of song that makes you want to kneel, the kind of song that makes you want to bleed. There are stories of settlers who stumbled upon these worlds long ago, desperate men fleeing famine, fleeing war, fleeing justice. They landed on the blood worlds with hope in their hearts, seeking a new beginning. What they found was an ending. At first, they marveled at the rivers. They thought the blood was a resource, a mystery they could sell, a blessing they could tame. They drank it. They used it to water their crops. They boiled it and bathed in it. And slowly they changed. Their skin grew pale. Their eyes darkened, as if the blood seeped into their very souls. They stopped speaking to each other. They began to gather at the altars, night after night, drawn as moths to flame. Neighbors vanished, one by one, their screams echoing through the crimson night. And when the settlers returned to their colony, they were no longer settlers. They were worshippers. Silent, hollow, their bodies moving like shadows, their lips whispering words no human tongue should know. By the time rescue ships arrived decades later, the colony was gone, not destroyed, not abandoned, gone. Every home empty, every door open, every field burned black. And at the center of the town, only one thing remained, a new altar, carved not from stone, but from flesh. But the blood worlds are not always empty. Sometimes travelers speak of entire cities thriving there. Cities where the air itself is thick with incense and iron, where crimson banners wave from the rooftops. Cities that worship openly, without shame, without fear. They chant in the streets, their songs echoing across the blood-soaked ground. They dance in circles around the altars, their bodies painted in crimson, their faces carved with ritual scars. Children are raised not by families, but by the cult. They are taught that the rivers are holy, that the altars are mouths, that the gods are watching. And when the children reach their 13th year, they are taken. Some are never seen again. Others return, but they are not children anymore. Their eyes glow faintly in the dark. Their voices speak in chords, as if more than one being speaks through them. They stand at the altars, and the altars answer. The few who have escaped these cities speak of nights filled with screams, of fires that never burn out, of sacrifices so vast the rivers rise and flood the land. And in the morning, when the sun cracks the horizon, the altars are wet, wet with blood that is not yet dried, blood that drips down the stones, feeding into the soil. The soil drinks it, the world drinks it, and the world lives on. But here is the truth that chills the blood more than any story. The blood worlds are not isolated. They are not rare. They are many, dozens, hundreds, perhaps, scattered like seeds across the galaxy. Some are dead, abandoned, their altars cracked and silent. Others still sing, still bleed, still hunger. And those who have mapped the stars whisper something terrible. The blood worlds are not random. They are aligned like a constellation not of stars, but of wounds. Each blood world a piece of a greater design. Each altar a note in a greater song. Each sacrifice a word and a prayer too vast for men to comprehend. And so, the question remains, who do these worlds pray to? Who carve the altars? Who drinks the blood? Some say they're the prisons of forgotten gods, that the blood is their lifeblood, seeping into the stars, crying for freedom. Others say they are not prisons at all. They are altars, altars built by men for gods best left unspoken. And some whisper the darkest truth of all, that the blood worlds are not worlds at all. They are bodies, the corpses of gods slain in wars older than time, their blood still running, their altars still pulsing, their hunger still alive. So remember this, traveler. When you look up at the stars and see a red light flickering in the void, pray it is not a blood world. Pray you never land there. Pray you never hear the song of the altars. For once you do, you will never be free again. Because the blood worlds are not just places. They are mouths, and every mouth must feed. The rivers of blood are only the beginning. The true heart of the blood worlds lies in their altars. Altars that should not exist. Altars that defy the laws of time, of stone, of death. They stand where no hand could have built them. They rise where no tool could have carved them. And yet they remain. Colossal spires of obsidian, blacker than night, etched with runes that move when you are not looking. Some small, no taller than a man. Others vast, scraping the poisoned skies like towers grown from the marrow of the earth itself. But their size does not matter. Their shape does not matter. Their age does not matter. Only one thing matters. They are altars, and altars demand sacrifice. At first, the sacrifices were small. Animals, captured by settlers, dragged screaming to the stones. Their throats cut, their blood spilled, soaking into the carved channels at the base of the altar. But the altars did not stir. They did not hum. They did not sing. And so, the sacrifices grew larger. Men condemned for theft. Women accused of witchcraft. Children taken in the night. Their cries muffled by cold hands. Their blood poured into the stones. For the first time, the altars responded. The runes pulsed faintly, glowing with a dull red light. The air vibrated with a low hum, too deep to be sound, too heavy to be silence. The rivers of blood shifted course, bending unnaturally toward the stones. The settlers fell to their knees. They believed the gods had answered. They believed the blood had been accepted. But it was not worship. It was hunger. For the altars are not symbols. They are mouths. Mouths that open when fed. Mouths that whisper when full. Some claim to have heard voices speak from the altars after great sacrifices. Voices that promised power. Voices that offered salvation. Voices that demanded more. Always more. Never enough. There is one account, buried in forbidden archives, of a world called Caliph Prime. A world of miners once rich in ore, reduced to despair when the veins ran dry. They turned to the altars in desperation, seeking blessings to restore their fortune. At first, they gave blood from their animals, then from their prisoners, then from themselves. But the altars did not answer. The runes remained dark. The stone remained cold, until the governor of Caliph made a choice that would damn his world forever. He gathered the children of the colony, hundreds of them, and marched them to the central altar. The screams echoed through the mountains for 3 days. And when the last child's voice fell silent, the altar spoke. The earth cracked. The mines reopened, filled not with ore, but with rivers of molten gold. The governor declared victory. The colony rejoiced, but the gold was cursed. Every man who touched it grew sick, their flesh burning from within. Their skin split open, revealing veins of liquid fire. Their mouths opened in silent screams as their bodies turned to ash. By the end of the month, Caliph Prime was dead. Every man, every woman, every child consumed by the curse. And in the ashes of the colony, only the altars remained, glowing, singing, waiting. But Caliph was not the only world, nor the last. The Bloodworlds demand a pattern, a rhythm of offerings. Small sacrifices keep the altars quiet. Large sacrifices awaken them. But if the sacrifices ever stop, the altars take what they want. Travelers speak of nights where the altars bleed, not with blood given, but with blood taken. Whole villages vanish overnight, their homes empty, their fires still burning, their food still warm. And at the center town, the altar drips, not with human blood alone, but with everything. Their memories, their voices, their very souls. The altars drink it all. Those who stumble upon such places describe them as graveyards of echoes. Shadows linger in the air. Footsteps sound with no feet to make them. Voices cry with no throats to scream them. The altars keep their offerings, and yet there are those who willingly serve them. Cults born in darkness, raised on lies, devoted to the stones. Men and women who carve the runes into their own flesh, believing the altars will one day awaken their gods. They gather at the foot of the stones in endless ceremonies, chanting words no language has ever spoken, dancing in circles until their bones crack, until their eyes roll white, until the blood pours freely from their bodies. They are the priests of the altars, the keepers of the sacrifice, the shepherds of blood. And to them, there is no greater honor than to be consumed. But the question remains, consumed by what? The altars are mouths, yes, but mouths are only pieces. A mouth belongs to something, something larger, something unseen. Some say the altars are the fingertips of forgotten gods, clawing to the veil of worlds. Others say they're the bones of dead titans, reaching for blood to reawaken. And some whisper a darker truth still, that the altars are not the tools of gods. They are the gods, broken into fragments, shattered across the stars. Each altar a shard being too vast, too terrible to exist whole. A being worshipped by names long forbidden. A being that still hungers. And here's the most terrifying secret of all. The altars are spreading, not only on the blood worlds, not only in the void, but on worlds we know, world we trust, world where people laugh and sing and raise their children in peace. The altars appear overnight, rising from the soil like teeth breaking through flesh. First one, then another, then many, and when they rise, the world begins to bleed. So ask yourself this: if the blood worlds are not distant, not isolated, not forgotten, what if the next altar rises here? What if the rivers run red through your streets? What if the stones whisper your name? What if the gods open their mouths and call for you? Would you kneel? Would you resist? Would you run? It does not matter, for the altars do not ask. The altars do not beg. The altars do not wait. The altars take, and once they take, they never give back. If the rivers are veins, and the altars are mouths, then the cults are the hands, hands that feed, hands that worship, hands that build, destroy, and bleed in the name of gods no sane man would serve. They are called by many names: the Crimson Choir, the Silent Ones, the Veil Breakers, the Children of Ash. But across the stars, they are known simply as the Cults of Crimson. No one knows where they began. Some say they are born on the Bloodworlds themselves, raised in the shadow of altars, suckled on blood instead of milk. Others believe they spread like a plague, carried by wanderers who escaped the Bloodworlds, infected not by disease but by whispers, whispers that never leave, whispers that dig, whispers that root themselves in the mind until one truth remains: serve the altar, feed the altar, become the altar. The cults have no borders, no flags, no nation. They hide in plain sight, in crowded markets, in quiet villages, even in great cities where law and light still stand. A neighbor who smiles by day may wear a crimson mask by night. A mother who sings to her children may sharpen her knife when the moon rises. A priest who preaches salvation may bow in secret before an altar of stone, chanting words that rot the soul. They are everywhere, and you will never know until it is too late. But on the Bloodworlds, they thrive openly. Picture it: a city built around a single altar, its jagged spires splitting the sky like a bone through torn flesh. The streets run with rivers of blood, flowing from carved drains that lead straight to the stone. Every building faces the altar. Every window watches it. Every heart beats for it. And when the time comes, the entire city gathers at its base, thousands kneeling in silence, their heads bowed, their bodies painted red, waiting. And then, at once, they begin: the drums, the chants, the screams. A ritual not for hours, but for days. Men dance until their feet are shattered and raw. Women wail until their voices shred to nothing but breath. Children cut their palms, letting their blood drip into the channels carved into the street. And through it all, the altar hums. Its runes glow brighter. Its stones vibrate. Its mouth opens. The priests of the cults are the most feared. Clad in robes of skin, stitched together from their own sacrifices, their faces hidden behind masks carved from bone. They do not speak in human voices. Their words are chords, layered and discordant, as if several mouths speak through them at once. They carry knives that have never rusted, blades said to be carved from the teeth of the altars themselves. And with these knives they open flesh, not only of the victims, but of themselves, because to bleed before the altar is to be seen, and to be seen is to be chosen, and to be chosen is to be consumed. But there are deeper rituals, rituals whispered about only in fragments: the gathering of veins, the sacrament of silence, the night of 1,000 eyes. No two accounts agree, yet all share one thing in common: the altar does not only feed on bodies, it feeds on time. Witnesses claim entire nights vanish in the blink of an eye, that they stood before the altar at dusk, and when the chanting stopped, the sun was already high again. Others claim days, weeks disappear, that they entered the ritual young and left it old. The cults say it is a blessing, that the gods drink time as easily as they drink blood, that every moment surrendered is another chain broken, another step closer to freedom. But those who survive speak differently. They speak of shadows that crawl inside the skin, of voices that echo long after silence, of eyes in the dark, that never close, never blink, never look away. One story is told of a cult on the world of Vera, a trading colony, small but prosperous, until one night the bells began to ring. At first, the settlers thought it was an alarm, an invasion, a fire. But when they stepped into the streets, they saw their neighbors gathered in silence, hundreds of them, standing in a circle around the town square, their eyes blank, their hands clasped, their lips moving in perfect unison. And in the center, a new altar. It had not been there the day before. No one knew where it came from. But there it was, rising from the cobblestones, wet with blood though no one had yet touched it. The settlers fled, some off-world, some into the wild, some deeper into the crowd, never to return. When rescue ships came months later, Vera was empty, not destroyed, not burned, just empty. The altar remained, and carved into its base, in letters larger than a man, were 3 words. We fed well. The cults are not mindless. They are not savage mobs. They are organized, precise, patient, and that is what makes them terrifying. Every chant, every sacrifice, every ritual, it all serves a single purpose: the awakening. You see, the cults believe the altars are not only mouths. They are locks that hold something back. And blood is the key. Every drop spilled, every throat cut, every body burned. It is all fuel to break the chains, fuel to unseal the doors. And when the doors open, when the chains break, the gods will return. Not the gods of light, not the gods of mercy, but the forgotten ones, the drowned kings, the eaters of ash and bone, gods that demand not prayer, but flesh, not devotion, but blood. And the cults wait eagerly, because when the gods rise, the faithful will be devoured first, and to them that is salvation. So the next time you hear whispers in the dark, the next time your neighbor watches you too closely, the next time you see a symbol carved into a wall, a symbol you don't understand, ask yourself, is it just coincidence? Or is it a mark of crimson? A call to the altar? A hand waiting to feed? Because the cults are everywhere, and they are patient, and they are watching, and when the blood runs, they will be ready. There's a sound that no man should hear, a sound that does not come from the throat, a sound that does not come from the wind, a sound that comes from the stars themselves. The cults call it the whisper, a voice too large to belong to any mouth, a voice too heavy to belong to any tongue. It does not speak in words. It does not speak in language. It speaks in thoughts. It speaks in hunger. It speaks in you. And once you hear it, you are never alone again. The whispers are the first sign that the altars are awakening. They rise not from stone, not from blood, but from beyond. A prisoner awaiting sacrifice once described it. He said he was bound, gagged, blindfolded, yet he still heard it. A voice inside his skull. A voice that spoke his name, though no one else knew it. It promised him freedom. It promised him power. It promised him eternal life. But when the knife fell, the voice laughed, and the prisoner's blood poured not onto stone, but into the waiting mouth of something unseen. The cults say this is proof that the forgotten gods are stirring, that they are calling their children home. The whispers do not come to all. They choose. A mother hears them in the cries of her newborn. A soldier hears them in the silence of his dreams. A priest hears them in the pause between his own prayers. Always faint, always subtle, never enough to scream, just enough to drive you mad. On the Bloodworld of Theron, there is a forest where the trees bleed. The cults call it the Choirwood, for in that place, the whispers are not whispers at all. They are songs. Every tree hums faintly, a vibration deep within its wood. Every leaf trembles, even when the wind is still, and those who walk among the trunks hear melodies in their bones. But it is not a melody that comforts. It is not a melody that heals. It is a melody that commands. Men have been found in the Choirwood, their eyes rolled white, their throats torn open, and carved into the bark of the trees are words they could not possibly have written. Sing with US. The whispers are not always gentle. Sometimes they rise in storms. Thunder that does not echo, but speaks. Lightning that cracks in symbols instead of light. Entire villages have gone mad in a single night when the storm passed overhead. Families turned on each other with knives. Children drowned themselves in the rivers of blood. And when the sun rose, only silence remained. The cults gathered the corpses at the altar, and for the first time in centuries, the altar laughed. But there is something far more terrible than whispers, something the cults do not speak of. Sometimes the whispers answer. A man on the world of Dreskel claimed he prayed to the altar every night, offering his own blood drop by drop. He begged for strength, for knowledge, for a voice in the silence. And one night, the silence answered. The next morning, his neighbors saw him standing in the square. But he was not alone. His shadow stretched wrong, bending at angles that did not belong. His eyes burned with red light that never dimmed. And when he opened his mouth, it was not his voice that spoke. It was many, a chorus of whispers, all layered, all screaming, all laughing, 1,000 voices from one throat. By nightfall, the town was gone, and the man still stood there, smiling, his body no longer breathing. The cults call these the chosen, vessels of the forgotten gods, mouths that speak their truths. But others call them something else, the harbingers, because where they stand, the altars grow. And still, the whispers spread. They move not through sound, but through thought. One man hears them, and his dreams infect another. One woman obeys them, and her children are born hearing them too. It is not disease. It is not madness. It is possession. A possession not a body, but a reality itself. There are stories of entire cities falling to whispers alone. No blade drawn. No ritual performed. No altar fed. Just a voice. A voice that grew louder and louder until every man, woman, and child knelt in the streets, blood pouring from their eyes, whispering the same word over and over, open. And when the last voice fell silent, the city was gone, not destroyed, not burned, just gone, an empty crater, a scar in the world, as if the earth itself had been devoured. This is the purpose of the whispers, not just a command, not just a haunt, but to weaken the walls between man and God, between flesh and eternity, between sanity and madness. Every whisper is a crack. Every voice is a hammer. Every word spoken is another lock broken. And when the locks are broken, when the walls fall, the forgotten gods will not need to whisper. They will roar, and the universe will listen. So the next time you wake in the night and hear your name spoken in silence, the next time you dream of rivers you've never seen, the next time your shadow moves when you are still, pray it is only madness. Pray it is only fear. Because if it is not, then the whispers have already found you. And once they do, you are theirs, forever. The Bloodworlds were never meant to be silent. For centuries they waited, their rivers of blood flowing in patience, their altars carved in obsidian silence. But now the silence is broken. One by one, the worlds ignite. From orbit they look like living torches, planets engulfed in crimson flame. Entire atmospheres shimmer as lightning rips across the skies. The stars above bleed, dripping across the void like wounds torn in heaven itself. To the men and women who stare through telescopes on distant worlds, it begins as a trick of the eye, a constellation shifting, a nebula glowing red. Then, slowly, the truth claws at their minds. The stars themselves are changing. No longer constellations, no longer random arrangements of light. They are forming symbols. Symbols not seen since the birth of the galaxy. Sigils of the forgotten gods. Panic spreads across systems. Pilots refuse to travel. Merchants halt their trade. Priests fall silent in their temples, whispering prayers they no longer believe in. Armies are mobilized, but none know where to march. For when the sky itself betrays you, where can you run? On the Bloodworlds, the Crimson Covenant begins its last rites. In every city, every cavern, every altar, the chants begin. Thousands of voices, then millions. A symphony of madness echoing through stone and sky alike. They chant in languages never written, tongues older than time. The air itself shakes with every syllable, and the earth trembles like a beast beneath their feet. The sacrifices multiply. No longer a matter of prisoners dragged screaming to the altars. Now entire populations are taken, families torn apart, bound in chains, and delivered to the towering stones of sacrifice. Their cries fill the night sky, but they are drowned beneath the covenant's chant. Oceans of blood spill freely, flooding streets, staining temples, painting the soil in red. The altars drink, and the altars respond. The ground splits. Rivers run backward, surging into cracks that glow with fire. Mountains collapse as if struck by invisible fists. Oceans drain into holes that scream as they open wider and wider. And from beneath the crust of each blood world, something begins to stir. It is then that the great truth is revealed. The blood worlds were never prisons. They were never places of punishment. They were wombs, vessels of flesh and stone, grown across the galaxy, waiting in silence. Now, they split like eggs, bleeding from fissures that tear wider with every heartbeat. Beneath their surface are not rocks, not soil, not stone, but veins and hearts and bones the size of mountains. The forgotten gods are not remnants of myth. They are not echoes of the past. They are children, still unborn. And now they awaken. From the void, shadows pour forth, spreading across the galaxy like wings without end. Time fractures, bending back on itself. Entire days vanish, replaced by screams that repeat again and again, as if the universe itself is stuck in a nightmare loop. Ships that flee the blood worlds never escape. They warp, twist, collapse into themselves. Crews dissolve into vapor, their blood sucked away into nothingness, feeding the wombs. World after world falls silent. Civilizations collapse in days. The Covenant kneels in ecstasy, bathed in flame, bathed in blood, their eyes wide with madness. They sing louder and louder, welcoming the birth of their gods. And as the altars crack wide open, as the wombs burst into fire, the forgotten gods rise. They are not beings the human mind can endure. They are not bodies or forms or shapes. They are mouths within mouths, eyes that stretch across the void, shadows so deep they erase the stars. Each step crushes continents. Each breath consumes souls. And as they gaze upon humanity, they remember. Then comes silence. Not peace. Silence. Because there is no one left to scream. The blood worlds lie empty, their altars hushed once more. The Covenant is gone, consumed by the very powers they served. The galaxy is broken, shattered, scarred beyond repair. And in that silence, one truth lingers. The forgotten gods are not returning. They have already returned. And they are hungry.